To the bottom right of the map, we have our Protoss player. First starting here for LGIM, down a map already. He needs a win here. And, well, the last game it was a little bit shaky. Let's find out if he can tie the series against his opponent, who starts the bottom left of the map. We have in blue the Terran player for SKT1. It is LabyRinth.
Yeah, LabyRinth already showing old school style there in game number 1. I like to see players do this more often because, yeah, things change. The game grows. StarCraft 2 Wings of Liberty has grown, and we're nearing the end of its competitive lifetime, but there was a time period where the build that we saw from LabyRinth, at least the Siege Tank and Banshee push, was dominating Processes. Now people found out that it's usually better to just go for that Hellion drop, but LabyRinth did a little bit of both. He started off with the Hellion pressure with the Marines, then went into the Siege Tanks, did a decent amount of damage. He knew the follow-up was a good choice, so it just goes to show that even though the Immortal got a buff to its range and Process started to figure out that push a little bit more, sometimes you can do a different opening and then go into that same type of composition and still make it work in 2013.
Yeah. It's a lot of those old tactics that you start again and where your opponent is not even prepared. But what really surprised me is that first saw everything. You know, from the beginning, his scouting was good. He knew exactly what was coming. That was the main reason why I was surprised that he couldn't defend better, because he had those information. It was not that suddenly this Medivac appears in his main base and he has all those Hellions and the natural, the Marines. So let's see what First is going to do here. At this point, I really feel that we definitely haven't seen First's potential in the first game.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
LabyRinth has to do it again. One map win is not gonna put him into the second round of Code A, and First is a strong opponent. So let's see what's gonna happen here. For LabyRinth, so far we have the start with the barracks again. He's not gonna go in command center first, something that he can do in a big map like a Whirlwind. And First is also not starting with the Nexus first, not taking any chances here. Going straight into Gateway cybernetics code.
You're right. He doesn't want to take too many risks, especially after seeing an aggressive build in game number 1 after LabyRinth. Did that tank push to finish things off. First, scouts the incorrect direction, so not only is he not going to be able to see the command center anyways because there's a wall, but he probably won't even be able to see if there's a command center on the low ground at all. And there's a factory going up for LabyRinth. He's doing a similar type of opening. Maybe start his reactor now as well.
For First, this is really annoying. As you said, he has the wrong scouting pattern, and LabyRinth, on the other hand, he got lucky. The CV scouts the base of the Protoss player the first try. So for him, he is now in the know, knows exactly what's going on. He has the Marines at the big ramp, so as soon as the probe tries to get in, it will most likely be shut down. First won't have any information whatsoever. He will have to play blind unless LabyRinth now makes a mistake and is not able to shut the probe off.
Yeah, and he needs to be able to do it. I think he will, but the one thing that's for sure as well is if the probe sees only 2 Marines at this timing, which he probably won't even go to check for because he knows that he'll just lose his probe if he goes. If he only saw 2 Marines, that would let him know there's definitely an add-on in the barracks, because otherwise there'd be 3 and then 4 at this point. But, I mean, that's... You know what? He's actually just going to pull back. This is really weird. You know, he said if he doesn't make a mistake, he should be able to hide this, but he pulls his Marines up now, and now First can see everything, in fact. He can see that there's no command center here.
This is a little bit weird with those 2 Marines. I mean, right now in the main base, they don't really serve a purpose. So he could have just left them at the ramp and tried to make sure that he kills the Protoss.
I think it's possible, but like I said, this is really thinking hard. If he's thinking like this, he might be thinking, well, if he sees only 2 Marines, he knows there's an add-on. But that's, you know, that's really hard to say if he's really thinking like that.
Nobody goes up the ramp, he sees the add-on anyways.
Yeah, and if he goes to the ramp like he will right now, he knows what's up.
He sees the Hellions, so he knows what's coming. And we have Cloak this time, so this is a little bit of a different opening from what we've seen in game number 1, where LabyRinth decided to go into the Medivac first and then start his attack. This time he's not following it up with Siege Tanks right away, he's going into Banshee play with Cloak. So he's adding a different touch to the entire push.
Yeah, he's still going to go for the push, but like you said, it's a different way of doing it, it's a different style. He can move out with his Hellions now, do a little bit of harassment, and then follow up the Banshee harass as well, and then start to damage the economy with those 2 units alone, or those 2 groups of units, and then follow up with the push.
He will just keep, or try to keep, First on his toes the entire time, and then follow up with the push once again. We already have him with the add attack lab at the factory now, and here comes Banshee number 1. And no expansion, as you can see, so there's no command center. He's going for a 1-1-1 build once again, a slight variation. And let's find out if First is able to defend this time. The Hellions are on their way as the Medivac.
Oh, he's barely not going to see this with the probe as well. He goes to check, but he doesn't see it.
Yeah, but he has Stalkers in position. Only 2 of them, though. So the Stalkers will be able to scout what's going on, but he has to warp in another round.
Yeah, I think he should be okay. He warps in a third Stalker, and with 3 Stalkers, I think he should actually be totally fine here.
And LabyRinth completely agrees. He decides to move back with a medivac, and suddenly he doesn't have this opening anymore. So first defense in game number 2 already a lot better than it was in the first game.
Yeah, because he has that economy. He didn't lose those probes, didn't lose those sentries like we saw last game. So he's building the better composition, but this time, of course, he's going to face Cloak. So that Observer becomes oh so important. The Observer sees the Banshee now, though, and he turns around right away. This is so smart. He's not going to see anything else. He's not going to know if siege tanks are coming as a follow-up, but he will know I can deal with this Banshee at the very least.
And here comes the medivac again. The Banshee attack at the natural, but here comes the detection, and the Banshee is gone. In the main base, the Hellions are in the mineral line, trying to do damage. Nice warping here, blocking the path. A few more probes have been killed, but that could be a lot worse than it should be.
Yeah. Oh! Never want to stack your probes up like that in that situation. 14. Oh my god. And you know, his Hellion drop, you guys didn't see it on screen, I believe, but he went all the way around the Stalkers, just barely able to squeeze through without first noticing while he was attacking with the Banshee. So he says, I'll distract you with the Banshee. Coming with the drop that was perfectly executed by LabyRinth. He got as good as he could have out of that.
Yeah. 14 probes, this is quite incredible, given how fast first reacted with his warpings, blocking the pathway of the Hellions. But then he kind of mismicroed his probes a little bit just for an instant, and wasn't able to kill the Hellions as fast as he wanted to. So he gets all those probe kills, LabyRinth that is, and this puts him, that puts first still ahead with 32 to 28, I believe. But we have now this massive army for the Terran player with 37 army supply against 31.
And that ratio again is so important, especially with Cloak. He's going to make sure he keeps the Observers alive. He has 3 right now. 1 is in the main base. He's going to send it back as well. So he has to make sure that scans don't kill his Observers, otherwise he has no way of dealing with the Banshees in general.
This time we don't have this many Banshees though. It's 2 so far because 1 was already killed and the third one is just now being built. First is trying to buy himself some time, having good vision with the Observer.
All the SCVs basically are pulled. He's got maybe 8 left in his main, but the majority of them are out here.
And here comes the Observer and the army. He has 2 Observers already. He knows what's going on here. He can force field. The siege mode is ready.
He may try to sacrifice his natural, or at least once the army starts coming up his ramp, sacrifice it. He's making pylons in the main base, which is the right choice, so he doesn't lose the more here.
Here come the force fields and a fair amount of SCVs. His trap can't get close enough because of the siege tanks. Guardian Shield is already active, warping additional units, 8 Stalkers in total, but we have 3 Immortals against the siege tanks.
This time the Stalkers pull back, the Zealots pull back as well against the force fields, but he repairs the Banshees, they remain alive. Now he looks like he may just fight. So much DPS being done here, he actually shoots the depot.
Yeah, he has to be really careful here because the siege tanks are now slowly leaping forward into the range of the Nexus. And here we go, first decides to go for it. The Guardian Shield is up, he's moving in with everything he has. The Immortals moving to the front, trying to focus down those siege tanks as fast as possible. And nice fight with the Stalkers, making sure the Banshees are not going to be an issue. But there are so many Marines still alive.
Yeah, the Marines are going to be the issue now. The siege tanks mostly taken out here. The last siege tank so low on hit points, but the Immortals, most of them were dancing at the back, not quite able to connect at first. And this 1 medivac makes such a big difference now because otherwise he could micro so well against the Marines. He's still doing a decent job. He needs more warp-ins here.
Yeah.
He's lost so many probes as well.
He needs the warp-ins, but he doesn't have the money anymore. LabyRinth is currently looking at 34, 37 army supply against 13. It looks like the 1-1-1 of Terran player is just too strong for the LGIM Protoss. First is on his last leg right now. He's trying to micro his heart out to change the tides of battle, but now he's losing the rest of his probes. This has to be game.
Yeah, even his Observer out of position here for a little while, so the Stalker's taking some extra damage from the Banshee. Once you get that medivac, he barely does not. Such great control by LabyRinth. Really good execution on these builds. The game is essentially over. First is trying to change it by microing. He may even fight with his probes here for a second, but obviously it's not the better choice. Now his Stalkers are cornered, and I think his chances of advancing in Code A are cornered as well here. LabyRinth with a bit of an upset will take first out 2-0. GG.
Wow. Look at him.
He is pumped.
Yeah, he definitely is.
Wow. And a well-deserved win. Really good execution.
Congratulations on production of getting that shot.
Yeah, that was a great shot.
That was nice timing.
Yeah, and there's a bunch of fans in the studio as well. They thought it was pretty awesome to see him being pumped up like that.
Yeah, the fans immediately started laughing when they saw it. And I don't blame him at all, LabyRinth that is. I mean, if you are up against first a player who, as we said, just won IEM, now comes back to Korea and faces a rather unknown Terran player. So when you're the underdog and you suddenly take him over with a 2-0 2-0. That is pretty incredible. And this means that LabyRinth is now guaranteed a slot in the up and downs, even if he loses in the last round.
So he could go into Code S potentially, but we don't even know if he's going to get straight in through Code A, but he's got a lot of opportunities for him now, starting out in his very first season of Code A, which is pretty rare. Usually if you qualify for Code A, you don't already have this chance, especially if, we've had Code A for so many seasons. You're playing against someone who has so much experience.
For First, on the other hand, this is a pretty huge upset. I mean, this guy was looking at a very incredible start in 2013, and LGIM just in general yesterday did quite well. The coach was happy with the performance, so today things start with an upset, and I don't think that First expected to be defeated with the 2-0. It looked a little bit like he was not prepared for really aggressive builds. Like he thought, given the maps that we had, that it would lend itself to a bit more of a late game scenario.
Yeah, exactly, and that's what he wanted to go for. He did an admirable job at defending, at least as well as he could have against the actual push. Imagine, though, if he had a good economy in Game 1 and Game 2. We thought in Game 2 initially, all right, he didn't lose really any probes to Banshee. Banshee goes down, but the Hellions were the problem. He loses 14 probes, and if you lose anywhere between 10 and 15 probes, that push becomes so much harder to defend because you can't spend all your resources.
The defense against the Banshee was just so incredible. You saw it immediately with the Observer, moved back, he knew exactly what his problem would be there, and he takes the Banshee out with the Banshee, I think, killing one probe, so not a lot.
Maybe two, but I'm pretty sure it was one.
Yeah, and then suddenly in the main base, just everything goes.
And the thing is, he had 3 Stalkers in his main.
Yeah.
It was really LabyRinth's control that allowed him to get into the main base. If he had run into the Stalkers, or if First had his Stalkers in the mineral line, for example, he would not have done as much damage.
But then you could really see when he defended, he thought at some point, okay, I got this. The warp in is good. I blocked the Hellions. They can't do a lot of damage. They did kill a few probes.
Yeah, maybe like 5.
That's it. So suddenly he pulls all the probes back into the mineral line, and then LabyRinth looking at this like, well, thank you very much. I wouldn't have been able to get close enough to them to kill them, but now that you pull them back, I'm suddenly in range again.
Yeah, really nice targeting. LabyRinth taking those opportunities and running with them.
Taking the 2-0, advancing to the second round of Code A. Congratulations once again. And this means that we are heading into our second game, which is going to be Flash versus Sola.
This is going to be pretty exciting. Sola, another one of these new players into the GSL. This is his first time he's able to qualify this season. Flash is a veteran, though.
Flash is a veteran, and the one thing that I think we can safely say here is that Flash is not happy with his performance so far in the GSL. He is very, very ambitious, but twice he was not able to get into Code S. He was trying in the up and downs, he fell twice now, and the last time Jaedong shot his attempts down to get at least into the wildcard group. So Flash now in a situation where he finally wants to qualify, he wants to get into Code S, but if he loses here, then he's back in Code B, and a player as ambitious as Flash, he wants this win and he wants it back.
Yeah, to fall into Code B would be a big issue for him, of course. I'm going to make sure that Sola switches to Zerg, who's right now in chat.
Yeah, he's on Photos. Just making sure that we don't have to have a restart here. But yeah, I'm really interested to see what Flash is going to do against Sola here. And a Terran versus Zerg is going to be quite the interesting match. Flash currently looking at a 65% win ratio against Zerg with 31 wins and 17 losses. We have him with a loss against Roro. That was last game that he played against Zerg in Pro League. And he also lost to S2. So, decent record. Flash, pretty impressive how he transitioned to StarCraft 2. And he's doing very well in Pro League, but he wants to achieve that in the individual league of the GSL too. And so far he wasn't able to do it.
Yeah, right now Code S is the most prestigious league in the world, the most difficult StarCraft 2 league that there is right now. And to get into Code S is something that anyone on Flash's level would aspire to.
Funny as it is, for Sola we don't have any stats against Terran. He played in Pro League twice. He played against Zerg and he played against a Protoss player. He played against Hero and Stefano. But he didn't play against a single Terran player. And also in his grid in the last few rounds, he only faced either a Protoss or he faced Zerg players. He took down Hero with 2-0, Casper Hero that is, and he was able to defeat Choya as well. So right now, the first time that we see his skills against Terran. And this also means that Flash will not really know how to approach him.
Yeah, this is going to be a little bit tougher for him for sure. Countdown is started, Kaldor.
Yeah.
Flash, this is a really important match for him. I feel more so than Sola because this is Sola's first time. He doesn't have a ton to prove here. In some ways he does, but Flash, he has a lot of fans with a lot of expectations.
For Solar, it's important to start his career here and to make something happen, but for Flash, he has a lot to lose here, reputation-wise, of course, and also his chances of getting into Code S. He